called YOLO, bro, because we're gonna live forever. Lately, I've been trying to be a better person. Maybe better is not the right word, because better is an objectively quantifiable superlative in the same way that I can't believe it's not butter is better than actual butter, and you would better believe that's not the case. Kurt Vonnegut was a humanist, but I think I'm just a humorist because I mostly find it humorous all these things I should be finding luminous. Somewhere along the line, I've gotten clinical and critical regarding all the empirically hypocritical individual institutions surrounding me, and including myself. And I don't like that. I don't like that I've gotten less excitable. I don't like that I've been less believing. I don't like all this bitter Holden Caulfield shit that I keep spitting with all my negative presumptions and negative assumptions. And whatever, you should never assume because you'll make an ass out of Umi. I've already covered that. But if I'm going to assume, going to make assumptions, then shouldn't they at least be the best in people? I want to assume that every living person on Earth has some basic shred of decency. I want to assume that every fucked up half-brother who misses Christmas dinner is simply trying to pull himself out of the gutter. And I want to assume that every seemingly shallow sorority sister who shouts out YOLO like Uno before taking a sip of something sweet and swapping spit with a stranger is simply reacting to a near-death experience. This summer, a friend and I got into a wreck going 55 down I-25. My roommate keeps trying to convince me that I'm in a coma, and so he whispers, "Wake up, and none of this is real," as I walk by him in the kitchen, and all that I can think is that I know it's not a coma, but maybe it's a semi-coma, and semi-coma sounds a lot like semi-coma, and there's got to be a joke to be made about the syntactical similarities between semi-coma and semi-coma, and I find it too, but I've been drowning in deadlines and butchering laugh lines by saying the first few words of the setup before getting to the punchline, and if I could just be real for a second, I'd like to say that premature ejaculation is a serious motherfucking problem. While I was still in the emergency room, I got a phone call from an old girlfriend who always fancied herself as Zoe Deschanel, Aubrey Plaza, manic pixie dream girl type of girl, and she asked me with complete sincerity, "Do you have a new outlook on life?" My reaction was to scoff, was to deride with derision. Yes, in the 3 fentanyl-induced hours since the crash, I have learned that life is for the living. Yes, I've had an epiphany that this last year was spent in a fog of tequila shots and marijuana smoke. Yes, I found God. He was hiding in an airbag. Funny how it's always the last place you think to look. I haven't prayed since adolescence, when I had anxiety about piety, and a grandfather was terminal. At his funeral, we passed around a picture of him, flipping off the camera and smiling like come Christ, and his son turned to me, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, and said, "Peace be with you." It wasn't then, but it has been since the summer after sophomore year when I stopped praying and started paying attention, because life is so much more beautiful when you are not muttering under your breath to an Old Testament God for 2 hours a day. I would rather have spent that time writing. I would rather have spent that time listening. I would rather have spent that time touching myself inappropriately to images of naked women on the internet, only to feel shitty about it later. When I stopped praying compulsively, the thing that stuck out to me the most was how much time I had. I had time enough at last for friends and writing, and time enough to take walks and walk the dogs and take careful note of the way the lines of trees framed rural sidewalks. Carpe diem was my mantra that I did not have the words for just yet, and not only because I'm going to be an English teacher, and it is worth noting that I've never seen Dead Poets Society. It is a cliche, but I spent so much of the months and years immediately following those epiphanies, looking for the best in every day and in everybody, and I don't know exactly when it happened, but I became cynical enough to stop at a sincere, innocent question regarding my reaction to what was perceived by an outside party to be a near-death experience. But it did, and I suspect that process was gradual. Even a year ago, I would have taken that question, "Do you have a new outlook on life?" to heart. Even a year ago, I would have been pretentious enough to take that accident and that corneal abrasion and those 2 weeks spent popping Vicodin like Claritin as an excuse to force an existential crisis. I am not who I was a year ago, though. So much of my own self-imposed self-identity has been shattered in these last 365 days. For so long, I defined myself as an idealist, and for so long, I defined myself as clean and substance-free, that without those abstract signifiers as codifiers to my identity, I'm no longer sure what I am without them, or if their absence has changed something fundamental about my wiring. A year ago, I wouldn't have believed it, but a year ago, we wouldn't have believed any of this. A year ago, we could not have pictured getting drunk in our hometown. A year ago, we could not have imagined lighting up inside your mother's house. A year ago, we could not have been able to conceptualize so much of this last summer. And that scares me, that loss of innocence, and that scares me, that break from childhood. It excites me too, though, because I do not know what is next, and I do not know where we are going, except for that we cannot go back again. Please do not be afraid, though, because I'm trying not to be, and because we can only go forward, and because this can mean only that we are astronauts. Thank you so much.